Hi everyone, it's Carrie Ann Finley from Spiritual Awakening Academy. We're here to get started. So let's start at the beginning. What is spiritual awakening? Why is it important? And why am I always harping about it? Spiritual awakening is a destructive process. So when you're not in alignment with the truth of who you are, what the universal energy does is it has a fail-safe set up in the program of your life, so to make sure that you are on purpose. And what it does is it puts you off track by going through one traumatic event or a series of traumatic events, which pull you apart, takes you right down to the core, strips you away down to nothing. And then it builds you back up, very slowly and gently building you back up, more in alignment with who you are, what you're here to do, in alignment with your purpose and how you can share your gifts with the world. So my story of spiritual awakening is, as a kid, I was born being able to see energy. So for me, my world started out very magical. I always could see angels and spirits, and it was just a fun childhood. I thought that was normal. But then when I got to school, like later on in elementary school, when I would start telling my friends I could see angels in the classroom, or I could hear the thoughts of other people while they're talking to each other from far away, it would freak them out, and I became more of someone people don't want to hang around, right? Of an outcast, because they were scared of that. People didn't understand it. And mind you, it's much more accepted now than it was before, because that was, 40 years ago. However, it put me in a state where I just wanted to shut it all down. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to have friends. I wanted to fit in and be normal. So from that early age, it would have been grade 5 or grade 6, I shut everything down. I didn't want to see it anymore. And up until this point, my mom, who was just awesome, she was learning about energy herself and thought it was the coolest thing that I could see these energies and auras and talk to spirits and ghosts and things like this. We would do this all the time at home, and she really supported me in it, and she wanted me to teach her how to do it. She wanted to learn how to do it too, so we could do it together. So she was my greatest cheerleader, supporting me from the sidelines all the time. However, when I shut it down, even when my mom would ask me to participate like we would at home or to show her things, I would just shut it down, because I'd set up this total wall invisibly in my mind to the spirit world. I didn't want to have any part of it, because I knew it was stopping me from having friends and doing well at school. That was what was in my mind at that time. Now fast forward to, I'm about age 20. I'm just out of university. I've got my first job. I'm doing pretty well. I'm still pretending like there's no spirit world because I want to be normal. And I got the news that my mom had a stage 4 cancer. She was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer with just a few months to live, even though she had been very sick for a few years before that time with strange illnesses. The doctors couldn't find out what it was until the very last minute, until she was stage 4. They found out it was pancreatic cancer. She only had a very short time to live and did pass away a few months later. It was very tragic. It was awful watching what she had to go through. It was such a traumatic experience watching her go through the end of her days into her death, as well as the trauma of grieving a parent that's passed away, a parent that's passed on. So for me, that was my traumatic event. It just turned me inside out and stripped me right down to the core, right? I went through this as a spiritual awakening. It forced me to ask questions about myself. Like, what's going on here? Who am I? What am I here to do? What's important to me? Because I didn't know anymore, because I threw it all away. All this stuff, the spirit world, was really, truly who I was. Those were my natural gifts and abilities. And it was the core of who I was, and I'd thrown it all away. So when my mom passed away, that only link that I had left to that world, I just lost it all. So it made me want to search. All of a sudden, it took about 6 months to a year of grieving her death and just feeling lost. And you know how you just kind of get like a deer in the headlights and you're walking around and not knowing what you're doing. You're in a fog. I just felt like I needed to search to find myself again. And all I could think of was when I asked the question, who am I? I knew I was all these things that I threw away. So I made a real serious effort. I wrote down a list of what I needed to do or what I felt I needed to do to pull the pieces of myself back together that I had thrown away. So my mom had taught me a form of Reiki, hands-on healing, when I was just a small child. At that time, I don't even think they had the word Reiki for it. We called it hands-on healing. I forgot how to do it. So I found somebody, a Reiki teacher, to teach me Reiki. I spent the next 3 years learning Reiki. It was very intensive. I know now, I'm a Reiki master and teacher now. Things are taught in a much quicker way. But 40 years ago, or I guess that would have been 30-ish years ago, things were always slow and drawn out and more methodical and took more time. And I'm grateful for that. I spent about 3 years training Reiki from beginner up to mastery, and that's just began the stage of healing for me. It felt like home. I was opening up to energy again in a safe place and understanding it, because part of my being scared of it was not understanding it. I didn't know why I could see things and why I was hearing energy and talking to ghosts and things like this. I couldn't control it. And part of that, the fear of it, was too scary for me to handle. So Reiki gave me some tools to be able to handle that, and also to be able to protect myself, to learn how to work with energy. The second thing I learned was Feng Shui. Now, Feng Shui is, it's the metaphysics of space. It's understanding how energy moves through a space. And because I could talk to energy in homes, there's a lot going on in homes energetically. And so let's take that one step further. There's a lot going on in the world, everywhere energetically. What Feng Shui taught me, and I took years and years in training in Feng Shui, probably 15 years of training in total. I've been to so many teachers. I've learned Feng Shui not just on a surface level, but I wanted to know the reason why energy vibrates the way it does and how it creates obstacles or how it can overcome obstacles. And I became very well versed in how to do these things, because I needed to understand when I was seeing something, why was I seeing it, or why were things talking to me and telling me they needed to change? I needed to understand. So for me, that was the next part of the equation that helped to build my foundation and empower myself. So I had Reiki to learn how to read and see energy. Now I had Feng Shui to learn how to read and see energy. It really helped a lot. There's no question. Investing in yourself, empowering yourself, gathering the tools to make yourself stronger is key on this journey. Because a spiritual awakening, remember, it pulls you apart. You're just like a little baby. You're starting from square one, from scratch at that point. And building yourself back up in the most powerful, positive way as possible is crucial to going forward on the journey and getting in alignment with your life purpose. So there's still one more stage for me. I still had lots of questions on energy, different dimensions, how to interact for me, because my first sense of the world is energetic. I see things in energy forms before I see them physically. So for example, when I'm standing in front of somebody, I see their energy first, off to the side, and then I see their physical form in front of me on another side. I see a split of two things at the same time. I couldn't control it for a long time, which is a problem. And so not being able to control it was a real mental challenge for me. It was hard for me to navigate my day-to-day activities when I've got so much information coming into me all the time from the outside world, and I couldn't stop it, or I couldn't navigate what it meant, or I just needed to find a way to be able to find a system to control it. And I did find that in remote viewing. So the third thing I took was remote viewing. I took 4 years of remote viewing training, which saved my life. I mean, the combination of all three, the Reiki, the Feng Shui, and the remote viewing is what saved me altogether. It's what built up the foundation of who I am to help me go forward. But it was the remote viewing that was like putting the cherry on top of the cake that just made everything make sense. It helped the Reiki make more sense, and the Feng Shui, and why energy patterns vibrate the way they do. What are they trying to say? How is it leading me to my purpose, right? What's going on here? So all the tools that I gathered energetically, for me, the key was I knew that I had these gifts that I had from childhood, and I knew I needed to make them stronger. And so I searched out people and teachers to give me the information to build up my gifts, to be able to control and navigate them so that I can use them as my life purpose to help other people, right? And so if you ask yourself about your spiritual awakening story, ask yourself about what you did when you were a kid. What did you love to do? What were your gifts? Maybe your story is similar to mine. Maybe your story is completely different. But the key thing is, whatever you recognize as what's really important to you in your heart, what you feel like you're drawn to the most, that you just love to do, it's the thing that you need to build up and build a better foundation to help you go forward. It's your life purpose. And that's what I love helping people to do. So fast forward to me. My mom died in 2000, which is almost 20 years ago. By 2006, I had already acquired enough information. I already had all of my Reiki training. I had a fair bit of Feng Shui training, and was just starting my remote viewing, maybe halfway into remote viewing training. And so I had lots of people contacting me, asking me for help on their spiritual awakening journeys. People were asking me to help them with Reiki or Feng Shui, but also asking for help just on the journey in general. What's happening to me? I feel like I'm going crazy. I'm falling apart, right? I did too. These are similar things on the journey. And so as we go through this group and I help to share the information to help you all go forward, what's really key piece is understanding that this is all normal. Some days you're going to feel crazy until you are able to equalize yourself to all the energies that are coming through you to help you understand who you are and what you're here to do. I mean, I just had so many questions, and the search, finding the teachers to come to me to give me the information, finding the right books, finding the right things I needed to do was just an integral part of the journey. So one thing that I did that was very healing for me, the first thing I did was I wrote my first book, Enlightenment, which was my journey of a spiritual awakening. It's the raw story of what I went through, my destructive process. Then that was in 2009. It took me, I started writing it in 2006. So by 2009, I had that. And as I was giving talks about my book and still coaching people about spiritual awakening, people were giving me more information about their story of spiritual awakening and what they were going through. And I was seeing patterns develop because I'd been through it too. I could recognize the patterns because I'd been there. So I wrote another book called Illumination. And these are the books that I'm giving away when people are winning the contest, and I'm talking about the books, right? So Illumination is about the patterns that people go through during the spiritual awakening process. It's a system from beginning to end. It's a reliable system that's got certain markers that you can recognize on the way. You can say, I'm at this spot, so now I have XYZ more to go. I'm right at the beginning or I'm right at the end, but it's a reliable stage of awakening type plan that the universe has set up. And I've seen this pattern repeat itself over and over and over. So This is something that I'm very passionate about because I love helping people through it because I've been through it and I know what works. I've been coaching on spiritual awakening, Reiki, Feng Shui, and remote viewing since 2006. So I know how to get people back on track when they're going through this process, how to recognize where you are on the journey, and to get you out of that stuck place and get you moving forward. So I want to keep this video just around 15 minutes. I don't want to talk too much because I've got lots more coming in the next few weeks. But this is just the beginning. This is the spiritual awakening process and what it is, and it's here to help you find your divine purpose and get you started on your own personal journey of sharing your gifts, what you're here to do with the world, and to make it a better place, right? So I hope you guys are all doing well. You can always private message me anytime. You can go to my website at www.spiritualawakeningacademy.com. You can email me through contact on there, private message me on Facebook. I'm happy to help if you have questions. And of course, I'm coaching all the time. I'm coaching privately people through their own spiritual awakening process. I've got the Develop Your Intuition Fast Track program is running right now. I've also got the spiritual coach training program that's running right now. And so there's lots of places you can jump in wherever it might fit where you are in your journey right now. Okay? Hope you guys are all having an awesome day. Talk to you later. Bye.